As with everything having to do with this president, his library is the source of a lawsuit in Miami. Hi, I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the Resident Legal Diva, and this is The Breakdown. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Legal AF for all things at the intersection of politics and law. So, today I'm breaking down a high-stakes fight in downtown Miami, the proposed presidential library for this current president. It's a massive, massive public land transfer, and now, because of this lawsuit, the whole deal is on hold. So, here's the deal. In September of 2025, the state of Florida approved the transfer of a 2.63-acre lot in downtown Miami. And this is located on Biscayne Boulevard, which is a major thoroughfare through Miami. This piece of land is owned by Miami Dade College, which is a public college. And this piece of land was given to the Donald J. Trump Presidential Library Foundation. And so what's interesting is that this piece of land sits next to the Freedom Tower, which is a historic monument, and it's part of the Miami-Dade College campus's footprint. I'm going to get into why the Freedom Tower is so important in a minute. So the site, this little piece of land, this little 2.63 piece of land, acre piece of land, is appraised at roughly $67 million, even though some folks suggest that the market value could be way many more times that, right? And again, thinking about Florida, a very active real estate market. You got all these millionaires coming, billionaires coming down. So yeah, you could see a prime piece of property like that on a main thoroughfare going for, well over $1 billion. You could totally see that. So the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, and the Florida cabinet unanimously approved this transfer. They said it was an economic and cultural win for Miami and for Miami-Dade College. Yeah, but folks weren't having that. Enter Dr. Marvin Dunn into the chat. He is a local historian and a retired professor, and he filed suit against the Miami-Dade College's Board of Trustees and the state of Florida. So, here's the deal. The lawsuit doesn't dispute the library concept per se. It's like, whatever, you can do what you want to do. The focus is on the legality of the land transfer process. So Dr. Dunn says that the Miami-Dade College Board of Trustees violated Florida's government in the Sunshine Law. So Florida has a very, very strong open government transparency statutes, believe it or not. And so this Sunshine Law is a law that requires public bodies to provide reasonable notice of meetings and allow public participation when major decisions, especially involving public assets, are made. So, now getting into the nitty-gritty on this one. On September 23rd, 2025, the board held a special meeting and approved the transfer of the land. The advance public notice for the meeting only listed a potential real estate transaction rather than actually specifying that the board was going to vote on giving land away to the state for the library project. Kind of an important detail. So Dr. Dunn's lawsuit says that this oversight deprived the public of an adequate opportunity to comment or object, which is a procedural defect of massive significance. So Circuit Judge Marvel Ruiz, and it's just so cool because I actually came up with a lot of these people in this story. So it's just, kind of dope from that perspective. Anyway, so Circuit Judge Marvel Ruiz found preliminary grounds for Dr. Dunn's claims and issued a temporary injunction which blocked the transfer of the land for the library. And the judge said in her ruling that this is not an easy decision, and this is not a case, at least for this court, rooted in politics. So getting to why this piece of land is so significant, it's not just like a random parking lot just kind of hanging out there, right? So it's near the Freedom Tower, which was once a processing center for Cuban refugees in the 1960s and 70s. So it represents a huge part of Miami's immigrant and educational heritage. So when Dr. Dunn speaks about it, he talks about it more as a land transfer. So some of the most valuable land in the city of Miami is about to be given away to a politician. That's kind of sus. So also, when you think about the presidential library next to the Freedom Tower, yeah, seeing that he's so anti-immigrant, feeling like the location not exactly appropriate, right? So, of course, folks are like, listen, this library is going to bring economic development. It's going to make Miami more of a national cultural hub. And Miami Dade College is going to benefit because it's going to get new programs and facilities. But is it though? Is it really? So let's look at the arguments on both sides. Got to be fair about this, right? So Dr. Dunn and his supporters are saying the following things: that the notice was insufficient, that the public should have been told that the board was going to vote to give away a major parcel of land. They're also saying that this transaction is extraordinary. You're looking at public land valued at tens of millions of dollars just being gifted away with obvi long-term implications for the college and for Miami community. Also, they say that the deal bypasses any meaningful public engagement and potentially undermines educational priorities. Because again, Miami-Dade College is a college. So interestingly, former college president Eduardo Padron calls the move unimaginable. And he's literally the OG and put Miami-Dade College on the map. So for him to be not okay with this says a lot. So, of course, you got to see what's the defense going to say. And that's, of course, the college, Miami-Dade College, Florida state officials, and the Library Foundation. The board is arguing that the special meeting notice meets Florida law, that there's no requirement to specify the exact transaction in the agenda. They also talk about the project as an offering that's a major public and educational benefit. You've got a presidential library, a cultural landmark. It's going to provide economic development for Miami. And they also maintain that this is a strategic partnership supporting Miami-Dade College's mission and the revitalization of the downtown area, which, no lie, that area could definitely use some sprucing up. However, at what cost? And looking at the broader issues in this, we're looking at issues of transparency and public agency decision making. So when you've got a public board just voting to give away assets that are massively valuable, how much notice is required? How much public input is required? Florida's Sunshine Law sets minimum standards, but there's a ton of wiggle room and room for interpretation. So what are we going to see there? Also looking at public asset management and educational mission, because Miami-Dade College acquired this land to be able to expand the footprint of the college. So transferring it is oh, but did you really need this anyway? And let's talk about your priorities. And also, what about your obligations to the students? I mean, could you be putting more labs on that land? Could you create student housing? What other things could be done with that land to benefit those folks who go to Miami-Dade College? And of course, you have to look at the political and the symbolic meaning of this, because the proximity to the Freedom Tower ties the land deal to Miami's immigrant and Black history heritage, which makes this controversy about more than just a real estate beef. This is about the heart and soul of Miami. And I know I mentioned Cuban refugees earlier, but there's a huge Black immigrant history in Miami as well, looking at the Bahamians who came over to Miami and basically built the city of Miami. So all of this is intertwined in the identity of the city and the importance of the Freedom Tower, and then as a result, the importance of where this library is located. And of course, precedent for future deals, because if the injunction that's been put in place by Judge Ruiz is upheld and the college has to redo the entire process of giving this land, it's going to strengthen public participation rights in similar land deals all around the state and potentially around the country. So, What happens next? Obviously, Miami-Dade College has appealed the injunction. They've gone to the Florida 3rd District Court of Appeals. There's going to be a hearing in late November. And if the appellate court says, stays the injunction, so basically that means the land transfer could proceed while litigation continues. If not, then the site remains under the college control until there's a final resolution. Ultimately, the court's going to have to figure out whether the Sunshine Law notice was enough, was it sufficient, and whether the board must reconvene, provide a detailed agenda, and allow public comment. If the transfer proceeds, the Library Foundation still faces the task of fundraising, because that's going to be an issue, and he's not digging into his own pocket for this, planning, navigating the crazy local zoning and development rules, and dealing with just the fallout generally of, do people really want this library right there in the heart of downtown Miami? So this is really interesting, at least to me, from, how to communicate this, just in terms of how do you work with the public in terms of when you want to do a project of this magnitude, how are you including the people? How are you communicating to the people, right? What does this mean for Miami-Dade College students in the broader community? What is this going to mean for the city of Miami and the state of Florida? Also looking at the role of advocates and local historians and how they're basically, running with the baton to be like, hey, we've got to preserve our history. We have to preserve accurate history. And also we need transparency. So this is going to be very interesting as it winds its way through the courts. I'll be back with the appellate court's decision and what happens next. But sound off in the comments. What do you think? Do you think public boards should have to give more detail when they're going to transfer a major public asset? Sound off. And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Legal AF. I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the Resident Legal Diva, and this was The Breakdown. Stay safe, stay informed, and keep demanding justice. Take care.
In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.